Hey, what's up guys, it's me Spectrar here in another video in Wayward Frontier. I'm bringing a tutorial to you today, talking about crystal farming. You may have not even known it was really a thing up to this point because it's kind of in it, but you probably run into some of it being the genes or the crystal spores. We're going to talk about that, but first we need to head to the area where we are going to do our farming. So if we go to the terminal, go to this mag rail station, go down to this area. Now I have kind of carved out this little area. So we're going to come into here actually. We'll go over there in a minute. We're going to talk about setting up a very basic genome first. So when you come into your E menu, you have this little grid down here. If you left click on it, you'll enter your gene setup. Now you may, while hunting through abandoned stations, possibly getting loot from destroyed ships, you may have come across some of these. These are the different genomes, or the different genes, and then you have your whole genome. I don't know. That's the terminology I'm going with. And you set them up in this area in a specific manner so that it will grow right, and then you plant a crystal spore, and that crystal spore will grow with the genome you have set up. And if you set it up right, it'll grow. Now, getting it to grow can be a little bit tricky. Once you figure out the rules, it's not too bad, and then it's more of like setting up the gene in the way that's right for you, I guess is the best way to say it. But let's talk about the basics for how the genes work. The crystal will grow based on how much energy and minerals it has. So if we read the center growth, which is the key to all genomes, every genome needs one of these. This is what causes it to grow. It tells you that it requires 4 energy and 1 mineral to start growing, to add 1 growth tick, essentially, to a gene. So you start ungrown, all of these, except for the center one, and then as it gets energy and minerals, it starts growing these other sections. And it starts with a little bit, but not a lot. And then it'll start growing everything in this branch. After it grows the adjacent ones, it'll start growing everything else in the branch. And then things in other branches, which we'll talk about in a second, it'll start growing at half speed. Now, when it says adjacent, I have found that it first grows this gene, then this one. So these two are your most important. And then for me, it generally starts growing this one, then this one. And I never had one here, but then it started growing this one and this one. And as soon as it grows all these adjacent ones, it seems to be counting these corners as adjacent. Then it'll start randomly putting growth into all the other spots. So you may find it different, which is why I suggest you, before you start, you try to get a couple of these so you have something to experiment with. Forgot I can hit right click to just go back, but left click to enter. And so that's how it's working for me, and through my testing, through several tests, that's how it's worked for me. So these 2 spots are the most crucial. Now, the trick to getting your crystal successful is to make it self-sufficient. In my opinion, I would not start growing a crystal until you can make it first self-sufficient, grow something that's worth something, and then seed a new gene. So let's go through these initial genes. So you have a collector. This collects 1 energy per tick. Now it grows in like a tick, essentially. So like every couple seconds, a tick happens, or roughly every second. So this collects 1 energy. Good, we need that. And then this generates 1 mineral per tick if it's along the bottom row of this branch. This whole thing is called the branch. So with these 2 spots, we can get these 2 things grown. This crystal is now self-sufficient because it's now generating energy and minerals continuously. So every time it gets 4 energy and 1 mineral, it'll then start growing something else. Now, to add value, you have bulk. This happens to be a gold bulk. There's also iron bulk. I don't know about other minerals. I'm assuming other minerals also have bulk, but I don't know. These are the ones I've collected. So once this is fully constructed, it'll put 25 ore into the harvest value. So that's the point of it's got to be worth something to harvest the crystal. Now, if we come over to here, a flower starts constructing a seed consuming 8 energy and 8 minerals per tick. And Once all batteries and shells, which we'll talk about in a second, are filled, it'll then construct a new seed. So this is the part of it being able to spawn more seeds, because you don't want to have to keep relying on RNG to get more of these crystal spores, because that would just suck to continue to grow farming. It's just not very efficient. You want it to be growing itself. So this flower is also very important if you ask me. Now, this talked about batteries and shells. A shell has an initial storage of minerals needed for the crystal's growth, and a battery has an initial storage of energy needed for the crystal's growth. I find that you absolutely need at least one battery and one shell to get a gene started. That gives you enough energy and minerals to get these two grown so that it can start being self-sufficient. Without them, I don't think it's possible. It just runs out. It cannot grow. And I keep them all connected. I think it's... I guess I could probably test that, but I keep them all connected because it looks nice and I think it's necessary. But I don't know. If you're wondering why I don't just like have this one over here. It just makes sense for me to keep them together. And this placement is arbitrary. It doesn't really matter where I have these. This just looked nice to me, so I put it like this. The ones that matter are the ones that are in this surrounding this growth, which you can move the growth if you want, but I'm fine with it here because this has to be along the bottom row. So, in my opinion, you may find differently. The most basic of crystals absolutely has to have this. What kind of bulk, it doesn't matter, but it has to have this. It has to have your growth, which is absolutely necessary, a collector for at least energy, a root for minerals, and then a flower so it can spread and continue growing other crystals without you having to spend more spores, and then some kind of bulk, a shell, and a battery. So that's the very basic of basic. And then what you would do is you'd have the crystal in your hotbar, select it, and then you would left click, pull out your miner, your mining gun, hover over it, and you can see your gene start to grow. Now you can see that it has an initial bank of energy and minerals, and you can see it's consuming that. If you look closely, the little square above the yellow one is slowly changing in shades, which means it's growing. The two above it are the two shells, the gray and the brown one. They're already fully grown because they came with the initial storage of minerals. Now it turned green. That means that gene is fully grown. Each gene has a different color. This one is green. I think it corresponds... not really. But the collector is green. And now you can see we're using the energy to start growing the root. Now, we didn't have enough in the initial banks to just fully outright grow it, which is the bonus of having more of those. But you can see you still have a good sizable amount of minerals, so we're not short on minerals, and we have the collector collecting energy still so that we can continue to grow. Now, if I had gone in here and swapped these two, what would have happened is that this root would have collected, and it would have, and first of all, it wouldn't have started collecting any minerals, but let's just say for fun it could have because it wasn't along the bottom branch. We would have only been collecting minerals and not collecting energy, and this crystal would have died. It would have just stopped growing. But because we can, it's still growing energy, and then once it gets 4 energy and 1 mineral, it'll start continuing to tick. Now you can kind of see this one over here. This one's still kind of growing. But it is making it just fine. Make that one the same? Maybe I didn't make it exactly the same. Made it a little bit different, but it's the same concept as this one is. Yeah, so it had the basic setup. So that's a basic gene. Now from there it can get complicated and you can do all sorts of things. I'm going to take a second and get the different genes I had and show you some more. Okay, so let's go back and look inside my gene. As you can see, there's a lot more, so we're going to go through it. I'm going to start with this center area and why I set it up the way I did. As you can see, I still have the collector here and the root here to start off my initial growth, to make it immediately self-sufficient. That way, if anything happens, no matter what, it can continue to grow. Now, on mine, it grows there, grows this one, then it grows this other collector, then it starts growing this lens, which the lens generates 1 energy per tick for every adjacent collector. So this will start growing 2 for producing 2 energy per tick. So at that point, we have 4 energy per tick and 1 mineral. That's great. From there, mine grew this root. So then I had 2 minerals. Then it grew this other collector and another lens. So between these, I am getting, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 energy per tick, and then 2 minerals per tick. That seems like a really great ratio to me. Now I have 2 shells, sorry, so I have double the amount of minerals, and then 1 battery. I would love to get another battery, but I don't have one. So those are the same, and I just put them there. It didn't really matter where I put them. Now, this one I'm not sure I really need in this gene, but it's in there. It's if sufficient energy is available, the resonator core will consume 8 energy and convert it into 1 mineral. So if I don't have a lot of roots, so let's say I didn't have this one, I'll just put it in this corner. Obviously, my energy consumption, my energy production is going to outpace my root. And so this would be really useful in taking that extra energy and converting it into a mineral. But because I have these 2 roots, I really don't think this one is necessary, so I'm actually going to remove it. Now, we talked about the flower. I don't know if having more than 1 flower really helps. It might make the flower grow faster, because what it's doing is it's taking that 8 energy and 8 mineral and filling these batteries and shells. And once they're full, it produces another crystal with that capacity. And because of the amount of output I have, I don't think having 2 of these is necessary, even though I had it in my first attempt. So we're going to ignore that for now. I think having just 1 is just fine. At first I thought maybe it would grow 2 different seeds, but I don't think that's the case. Because as you can see, if we hover over this one over here, which is one of my ones that had almost everything I had in it, you can see, oh, not that one, sorry, this one. You can see the seed percentage. It seems like everything is just accumulating into 1. And you can see I have 3 flowers in that one, actually. All the three pink squares. I don't think it's helping it grow faster. I could be wrong, and if one of you have found differently, please let us know in the comments. I'd love to know differently. But that doesn't seem to like make it go faster. So we're fine with that one. Next, we have a gold facet. So the facet gene, depending on the mineral, this one happens to be gold. Once it's fully constructed, it will start using 1 energy and 1 mineral each tick until it has consumed 1,000 minerals. Then for each 15 of those minerals it has consumed, 1 gold ore will be added to the harvest value of the crystal. So this will slowly build up in gold. Then we have the regular bulk we talked about. We have a new branch. So this causes a different branch to start to be created. Now we talked about here how it can construct inside other branches at half output. So half of the output it would be putting into stuff inside this branch, it will start putting into this branch, which is a smaller little grid, but where I put in my iron bulk. Now, the reason I did this is that I wanted all of this energy output to first go into everything that was out here. So because gold is, and I had less of it, is more valuable in a way. If I wanted to harvest the crystal before it was fully grown faster, I'd at least get some gold out of it. But I wanted this energy to first mostly go into the flower to start other crystals being grown. And then it kind of does half output and slowly bulks up to the gene to where it starts gaining more value. So my thought process was get the crystal fully grown and making other crystals. And when it makes another crystal, it just randomly puts it along the side of it somewhere. Yeah, see, this is still growing nice and at a nice pace. And so I got it self-sufficient with a good amount of energy output. Got it producing other crystals, and then it could start focusing on the bulk and making it more valuable. Now, if I had taken these, sorry, right click to go inside of it. If I had taken all of these and put them out here, there's a possibility it would have grown all of these bulks before it even got to this flower. because it randomly chooses ones outside of here once it's grown all the adjacents. And so that's why I kind of did that. So at this point, now that we've grown one, we can come over here, left click with the crystal selected, pull out our mining laser. We can see our gene start to grow. Now it's got a little bit more initial crystal value. And so you can kind of see how there's a bit of a balance you can kind of start to play with. So if you have more shells and batteries, your initial start to the crystal is going to be much faster, and it's going to start producing and building itself up more faster. The bad side to that is it then takes longer for the flower to produce the seed, because you have to fill more of those capacities for the energy and minerals. Size, I don't know enough about that to really give much input. See, this one's size is 15. I don't really know what that is, but the value is really how much ore value you're getting out of it. So the value is really kind of what you want. So as you can see, we already have the collector growing, and we got most of the root grown before I ran out of energy, which is why I'd love to have another battery. But as you can see, it's already grown, and now this seed is self-sufficient and will eventually grow. Now, this may all seem really slow because we planted this one and we've been talking and it still hasn't finished. But you gotta remember, you plant these and then you go off and do all your adventuring, and these are just sitting here growing and reproducing and spreading out, and soon you'll have your whole place filled up. And then you can come back in a pinch when you're in a position where you can't go buy more minerals or you don't want to go mining. You can come back to your farm and start collecting them up and build up your reserves really quickly if you have a good gene setup. So you can take a couple crystals and plant them in the middle of these areas so that they spread out all over the place. You can also take your mining laser and start mining out this dirt, which is what I did for this little area, and make your area bigger so you have more room for more minerals. You can even start sectioning them off so you have different genes in different areas. So you can have like a iron. Oh, and by the way, when you have the dirt, it'll start filling up your space, and then you just take it and put it in the trash. It doesn't matter. But you may have like two different sections, one that's purely focused on gold bulk, one that's purely focused on iron bulk. So that way you have your like iron section, your gold section, and then if there's bulk for the other ones, your other sections, essentially. And so it can be, I think it can be a really useful early investment to save you from the grind of asteroid mining or working the market to get more minerals. It's not the immediate fast solution by any means. It's a slower process, but I think it'll pay off. And if nothing else, if you get some gold ones, like I've been lucky to get, I got some gold ones, you can use that to just make money quick. So you can be out playing, and then as you get further in the game, when things start getting more expensive, suddenly you're out of money. Well, who cares? You don't have to go do a bunch of trading. You can just go home, collect your farming, all the stuff you've been farming, collect all the gold, and then go off and sell it. You can, and suddenly you're way richer, and you can go continue to adventure. And if you leave a certain amount of crystals left over, they'll start reseeding everything, and they'll continue to make you money. While I've been ranting, as you can see, it's still growing. It's growing that left-hand side one next to the yellow. It's a slower pace once it runs out of the bulk, but, it continues to grow. This one is still growing up here. It's great. I think farming is a really useful thing. It's just a little tricky to understand, and hopefully this has helped you understand it. I have two older videos that I still think are kind of relevant, though it's kind of changed a little bit, so you can check them out if you want, but I think this video will suffice for helping you get started. You may end up finding other genes that I haven't found yet, and you'll just need to carefully read the description, and just remember the balance is how much energy and how many minerals you're making to fill up their different needs, so to speak. And just remember, you got to get it so that it's first self-sufficient. And my suggestion is to then make it so that it can produce other crystals. Otherwise, I think it's a waste. And obviously making it of some value. But I think that's it for here. Hopefully that all made sense. Feel free to help each other in the comment section. If there's other questions, I'll try to answer them. But my knowledge is limited by what I've been able to find. So if you found something that I haven't seen here, my best attempt to help you is to just guess. So I suggest you just read the descriptions really carefully. They can be a little bit weird, but after you reread them a couple times, it can start to make more sense. And just because you have a bunch of genes doesn't mean they all need to go in here. As you can see, I took some out. So I hope this helps you on your way to experimenting with your own farming. You may find it unnecessary and don't even want to touch it. That's fine, but I think it's cool and kind of fun. So hopefully I will see you in the next one. See ya.